What's up, everyone? We have still left the group chat, ladies. Like, this is live. We're still here. Welcome, everyone, to this second episode of Politically Speaking. We have the lovely co hosts with us, Kirsten Pruitt, Erica Sampson, and the one and only Emily Mayer. So we have a lot to unpack today, okay? So this is going to be a very interesting episode. At least I think it is. We got a lot to discuss. But let's start with something positive, and let's all share about why do we even get involved in politics? Why did we do this to ourselves? You know what I'm saying? What made us decide to get involved? And let's let the audience get to know us a little bit better. So I'm going to shoot it off to Emily. Go ahead, Em. Share your why.
I was thinking about this in the shower. You know how you get like random shower thoughts while you're trying to like get yourself
Yes.
ready for the day? I was like, I don't even how do I even start this story? Um, but so I grew up in the greater Washington D.C. area, and when you live there, government news is your everyday. There's literally like no escaping it. And I had parents who were super tuned in, and I had fantastic social studies teachers, which is really like not a normal thing you hear people say about high school, but I did. And so they made it really compelling and interesting. And I just became like a weird nerd about that. And then when I left home and went to college, I realized when you're not in the DC area, it's not front of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we made the choice to move to South Carolina, it was the first time I was moving to a red state. It was the first time where I felt like I couldn't just sit back and take advantage of the people around me doing the work. And my husband, Phil, and I were super aware and intentional about what that would mean for me using my voice. So as soon as we came down to South Carolina, I mean, I registered to vote right away, like make sure I was a South Carolina voter for November 2020. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
not missing that opportunity. And I just reached out to as many groups as I could. I did my research, as they say.
Yeah.
I found my county party. I found the Bluffton Democratic Club. I found the Young Dems group. I found the people who I knew aligned with me, and I just literally jumped all in to the deep end and made it work from there. So I kind of came through politics organically, naturally in the setting that I was in, and then being aware of what 2020 was and where I physically was geographically in that moment, I
Mm-hmm.
just knew that I really didn't have a choice. And in 2021, I showed up at the State House for the first time to give testimony, which was not something I had ever done before. And the rest is sort of history from there. 2021, then I did Emerge and I did the Clyburn Fellows, and there was no turning back. You got me for life. So that's a long way of answering your question, but I think that's how I got involved, and what really sparked my interest in it,
Mm-hmm.
specifically like what news event, I would say was the Parkland shooting. Um, because I was teaching at the time. I was a public
Yeah.
school teacher. And I just remember that being like the first time that the students were in the forefront of the conversation. And I found that so inspirational, but at the same time, so disheartening that we as adults hadn't done anything, that they are now carrying the weight of this, and listening to people who had never spent a minute in a public school classroom start to discuss arming teachers and how to keep schools safe, and none
Yeah.
of it had to do
It got real.
with gun safety measures. I was like, no, we're not we're not playing that
Mm-hmm.
game. So that
Yeah.
was really the event catalyst. But then moving to South Carolina in the 2020 election cycle, it was a no-brainer. So long answer to a short question, but
Yeah.
that's my story.
Love that story nonetheless. All right, Miss Kirsten, you're up.
I was gonna say, I do not feel like that was long because when I was thinking about this earlier, I started writing out what I wanted to say, and I'm like, this is going on forever because I was getting like super, like, I like reading and writing novels, so I was just going to town, and then I'm like, nobody cares this much. Like, they don't need this all backstory, but so for a little backstory, but I'm going to shorten it.
Mhm.
I am also not from South Carolina. I'm from right outside of Detroit, Michigan, this city called Grosse Pointe, which is actually right now there's a show on NBC, Grosse Pointe Garden Society. So that's kind of fun. And it's like obviously very fictionalized, but also portrays the character of Grosse Pointe. So, but the interesting thing about Grosse Pointe is that it is directly next to Detroit, and they could not be two opposites. Like, they are so different cities. Like, I think it was like USA Today one point said that the Grosse Pointe Detroit school district dividing line is the most segregated in America.
Wow.
Because Grosse Pointe was created by like Henry Ford and other auto executives to
Mm-hmm.
be where they lived because they didn't want to live in the
Mhm.
city. So just like extreme wealth. It's what I grew up around. But my family was poor. There were like 3 blocks for poor people, and it was called the Cabbage Patch, and I'm a Cabbage Patch kid and proud of it.
Aw.
I love
Very,
that.
very middle class, working family. But I saw income inequality and just at an extreme level, and I felt like, I don't know, that sort of, I'd always had this like sense of justice in me that like what I'm seeing, like while our family's struggling to make ends meet and put food on the table, these people, I mean, they're 16-year-olds before they're even 16 are getting brand new cars and just like every extravagance. And so I was like, this is not fair. So anyway, so I'd always been interested in politics. I wanted to go to Michigan State's James Madison College and study political theory and constitutional democracy, but I didn't get in for the fall class. They said I could come in the winter semester, and I was like, no, I don't want to wait. So anyways, kind of derailed all that. And then like fast forward a bunch of years to the 2016 election, and I was here in South Carolina. I was so excited to go vote for what we're all convinced first female president.
Mhm.
We all know how that turned out. And at the time, I was listening to Pod Save America, my favorite podcast, and they kept saying after that, don't let the 2020 election be like the 2016 election where we all woke up the next day thinking, what could we have done differently? And that really
Mhm.
resonated with me. I'm like, I should be getting involved. I should be doing something.
Mhm.
Um, and then when Elizabeth Warren announced her bid for president, I was so excited in a way I hadn't been about a candidate before. And I never thought I'd see myself phone banking. I was like, cold calling strangers? Absolutely not.
Mhm.
But my Pod Save America hosts were like, yeah, you got to do it. You got to get in there. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And then it turned into like, I was making so many calls and doing well. And they're like, let's bring you onto the team. So then I was calling volunteers.
They got
And
you.
as those, yeah, yeah. And so then from there, I was like, okay, well, I'd like to do. I think Pod Save America was calling for people to get involved in elections because there was some concern at the 2020 election. So I got involved as a poll watcher, and then through that, I learned about the Greenville County Democratic Party. Um, but I didn't get involved in that right away. I ended up seeing an ad on Facebook that the Young Democrats of Greenville County were looking for a secretary and treasurer, or just a treasurer. And I had literally never been to a meeting, but I emailed the chair and I was like, do you need experience to run for this treasurer position? She's like, no, we'll take you. Nobody else ran. You know how that is. There's nobody else that wants these positions.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were thrilled. So I ended up doing that, and then it just kind of like snowballed. Ended up eventually becoming the chair of the Young Dems, getting involved in the Greenville County Party as I got to know more people, doing Emerge and Clyburn Fellows. And yeah, so that was probably longer than M's, but I did condense it from what it was going to be. So
That was the condensed version. Okay,
yeah,
Kirsten, we thank you.
be grateful.
Yeah. I love that story though. I like how everyone's their why has stemmed from a personal experience because I feel like that's everyone's story. Something has happened in our timelines that stirred us up to want to get involved. Want to get us off the couch. Um, but
And I love that you gave a shout out to my girl Liz. Oh, love her.
Always my fave. Always. Forever.
so my why was based. So I worked when I was working at this building, and just minding my business. I feel like that's always happening. You're always minding your business, and then someone comes along and disrupts it. But I'm at work on the clock, and the owner of the facility, he comes by and he's like, didn't even say hello to me, didn't even ask my name. He just opened it up with, hey, young lady. He was like, you know what? The only things that I got along with when I was little was blacks and animals. And I'm looking at him like, what did he just say? Trying to
Yeah,
process
that is the most interesting
like
introduction line I've
sentence.
ever heard.
Was
Right.
he
And
black?
no, he was white. And
Oh,
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad that you asked that or for context. Okay. Because I'm like, now as I'm receiving it, now I'm processing it. And then I'm looking to my left and right, like, did anybody else hear what he just said? And so I'm like, what? And so he like after that I go to HR because I'm like, ain't no way that is normal. Ain't no way that is something. And then keep in mind, I'm on, like, I clock in and put money in his pockets. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hired for him. So I go to HR and I repeat this statement to them, like, wanting some type of support, wanting some type of clarity, wanting some type of, like, feedback, saying like hello, and the feedback that I got was because he owns the building, it's out of their hands. And knowing what I know now, I wish I would have went to the news. I wish I would have been more, educated or no, because at that point I felt like, well, if that's who the HR, is saying to me about the situation, you feel helpless. You're like, well, what the heck? And long story short, I ended up leaving the place because I'm like, there's no way I could continue clocking in and working for someone who openly says comments like that. So I'm venting to my colleagues about it. I'm like, hey man, let me tell you like what he said. And I shared it with them. As I'm sharing it with them, they're adding to my conversation with their experience with him. They're like adding their own stories because, they have tenure there. And so they've been there longer than me. But I'm thinking I'm bringing them like some new information. No, they was like, oh no, I'm gonna raise you a story with the story. And I'm like, my gosh, like we are really working for someone. And I'm from North Carolina, so I'm not originally from South Carolina. And I tell my mom all the time, even though the states are neighbors, there's something different when you cross into this state because I'm like. He just flat out like said it to my face, like just so comfortable with it. So after that whole experience, I kept processing, and then here comes the why, and like now I'm ready. Now I'm like I'm like starting to have more roadblocks, and I'm starting to feel like disconnect, and I'm starting to feel small. So now I'm opening up my laptop, trying to find out like now where's the village, like because I just feel like I know it's not wrong, but corporate is like sweeping it under the rug as if it's not wrong. So long story short, that's how I ended up getting involved. I felt like I didn't like the unsettling feeling of someone feeling being that comfortable to say those thoughts out loud to my face. I don't care where we are. I don't care if it's 20, and I definitely don't care that it's 2025 still to this day. Like, no, we're not doing that and stuff. And so I felt helpless. And so then I started finding the village, such as the Charleston County Dems, and that's how I got involved with them. Just going to the meetings, and then I started joining the Young Dems because I'm like, okay, well now here's my other village and stuff like that. So it just progressed to that timeline, but it started from just a terrible, weird situation, and then it's like part of me is like, well, I guess it was meant for a reason because look at me now. Now I'm involved. Now I have the answers. Now I'm never like, well,
mm-hmm.
what should I do? I'm like, no, I know what I'm gonna do. Like, you
Right,
got the wrong
right.
one.
Yeah.
You
I have
got
a
the wrong
question
one
for
today.
I have a question for both of you. Do you feel
Hmm.
like when you first showed up at your county party meetings, were they just like so excited to have a new young face in the room, because when I showed up at my
Oh,
first Beaufort County
1000.
Zoom, I mean, it was literally like, maybe because New Jersey is a blue state where I came from, I felt like it was always like a wait in line, wait your turn type of vibe when I went to meetings. But the
Mhm.
second I showed up here, I felt like people valued my voice, like wanted to elevate me. And like, that was just so welcoming and refreshing. I think maybe some people might find it overwhelming, but I was not that kind of person. So I wasn't sure if that was a Beaufort County thing, a South Carolina thing. I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely like that in Greenville. And I mean, I feel like I'm becoming an older young Dem, but even so, like, just the support, like you said, with like when you come with an idea, to have people be like, "Oh yeah, that's great." But I do know, I've heard that it's not like that in every county in South Carolina. Some are like, "No, you're young, you don't know what you're doing." But no, in Greenville, they were like very, very welcoming, and still are very welcoming to young Dems, which is just amazing.
Same. I feel like what my timeline, the county party chair at the time, who was Greg Perry. So because he was a young Dem, it was kind of like even easier for me to be welcomed. You're like, oh yes, finally new faces, more young people. This is exactly what we're needing and stuff like that. So I had a great experience. And then because I was new, I was getting like overloaded with so much information because they're like, oh, you're new to this? Oh, did you know this? Did you know this? I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, give me a second. Let me process. It was a lot of like, they just needed someone to hear that they're new. And it was just like so much information being thrown at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to like keep up. Um, but thank you, ladies. We are going to get into the meat and potatoes of this next segment, which I'm starting to dig the next segment. It's called The Briefing Room. How, ladies, is you ready? Are we ready?
I am ready
Other
because
Are we
not.
ready?
I'm the one who said I want to hear about this story on this week's podcast.
Yes,
So I'm ready. You got me. I'm locked
girl.
in.
Girl. All right, let me get a sip of water real quick because this is a doozy. Okay.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Gotta stay hydrated. All right. So, for anybody that is first tuning in, what we like to do is do what's called the briefing room. This is where we pull a segment and we're going to discuss anything current, whether it's local, whether it's on national level, anything like that, where it's just a current event, just to make sure that everyone is in the loop what's going on. And today we're going to be talking about North Charleston. I don't want to say drama, but North Charleston radius. So if you're a North Charleston resident, or maybe you're not, if you're in South Carolina, I'm pretty sure you may already know this story. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So in today's briefing room, and I have my script, so forgive me because I got to make sure that I read it because I don't want anyone fact checking me while I'm trying to fact check them, at the same time. So I am going to read it to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I'm going to go ahead and break down everything I'm going to discuss, and then I'm going to shoot it to the ladies, and then we're going to have some open discussion about it. So in today's briefing room, we're diving into a segment into a significant corruption scandal involving the North Charleston City Council members, along with other people affiliated, I should say. But it's a heavy one because the topic involves bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and different money laundering schemes. So let's just start from the top, like how it started. I feel like this is one of those situations where someone is like, do you remember where you was at that time when you heard the news? Like, I knew exactly where I was when I received this. Okay. So it starts with beginning earlier this year. There was corruption tied to decision actions that within the North Charleston City Council. So three of the city council members ended up getting into like a corruption case, and then it led to unfolding of other stories that took place. So let's start with the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of South Carolina, Brooke B. Andrews, announced that three city council members, Jerome Hayward, Sandina Moses, and Mike Brown, are being accused, along with five others, individuals, I should say. So it started with Jerome Hayward and Sedina Moses. They have actually both resigned due to the accusations that were presented forward. And then Jerome Hayward and Sedina Moses have both resigned from their positions due to the alleged allegations that have come to the forefront. And they resigned as council members. So Jerome Hayward's resignation was confirmed by the city of North Charleston, but the governor, Henry McMaster, confirmed Moses' resignation in a news release. The only person that has not resigned as of right now is Councilman Mike Brown. However, Governor McMaster did suspend his role as an executive order. So this is the wild part. The wild part, like that wasn't wild enough. But the FBI were locked in intercepting their phone calls and electronic communications for a set duration of months. Okay. So while
how does that happen?
Girl, I wish I had that answer, but I do not.
I'm kind of glad I don't know, but yikes.
Right. So, for like, it said like 2 different 30-day periods. They have been intercepting their phone calls and electronic communications. So that's how the information ended up unfolding, and the domino effect started, how all this information got released. So currently, as of right now, Mike Brown faces serious charges. Well, they all do. Including conspiracy to commit bribery, receiving federal funds, and then wire fraud. So what was happening, I keep wanting to say allegedly, because none of them have, their cases are still pending. So I want to make sure I keep saying allegedly. But allegedly, they were returning favors for money. And like, if you want my votes, this is what it's going to come with, a financial gain behind it. So that's pretty much how some things went. So Hayward has been charged in connection with multiple bribery schemes. The allegations include accepting payments in exchange for his official action, conspiring with Brown and Aaron Hicks to accept the bribes for their votes on rezoning. Rezoning is a big one because, my gosh. And collaborating with nonprofits as well. And they list the nonprofits as Donovan, Moten, and Michelle Stent Hilton to solicit kickbacks from the city funds. And it says if they are convicted, they could face up to 20 years in prison. So that's a doozy as well. Some more things, because like I said, we got a lot to unpack with this one. As far as the nonprofits role in this, allegedly they conspired with Jerome Hayward. If they gave him money in order for him to do kickbacks for them. So Jerome Hayward is expected to plead guilty to several charges. He's going to take accountability for some pieces of this that have come forward, including conspiracy and wire fraud. And they're saying that he could face up to 20 years as well in prison. So the situation with the nonprofits apparently received $100,000 each. So it's 2 nonprofits. They ended up receiving $100,000, and the role of Jerome was that he assisted them getting the money, and in return, they're saying that for him to get them that money, they were supposed to give him up to 20%, and they could keep the rest. And so it goes down the funnel of that they received the 100,000, and then he kept 20%, but he had it transferred through his personal assistant so that they could do whatever they need to do to make it look like, you know what I'm saying? So it allegedly, again, allegedly.
So wait. So there was town money in the budget set aside for this nonprofit, and because city funds, because he agreed to vote for the funds to be released to this organization, which $100,000 for a nonprofit, huge amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But the kickback was that he was going to get 20,000 of it, and they got to keep 80,000. So he got to keep city money because of his vote.
Yes, and they're saying, according to the documents,
Allegedly.
allegedly, thank you,
Good
M,
one. Em.
allegedly, that he had the personal assistant do what they have to do in order to transfer the funds and, be able to put it in his bank account, basically. Um, I feel like I need another sip of water. All right. So the other people involved, such as Mr. Tory Fields and Aaron Hicks, they are tied to the bribery as well because they assisted with attempts to influence council members regarding rezoning votes. Both men are charged with conspiracy and committing federal offenses. Allegedly, Mr. Fields received $30,000 up front, and then he received an additional $5,000 per month after that. And then Mr. Hicks received $10,000 up front, and then an additional $5,000 per month after that. You should have saw my eyes when I was trying to make sure I wrote all this down to make sure I'm like I was double reading it to make sure I was doing my due diligence to make sure I understood all this stuff. And lastly, Sandino Moses, he also resigned. He was the third councilman. He is facing the lesser of the charges, but nonetheless, he's still facing charges. He realized that there was some bribery going on, and unfortunately, he still took the bait for the bribery. However, he gave the money back. So they're saying that he did receive $450 because he was like, well, if you want me to partake in
Aw.
the vote or my vote, I gotta have something. So
Was it worth
accordingly,
it? Was it worth it? $450 you're still getting charged?
a girl. So
And losing
he
your
gave the
council
money back.
seat. Yeah.
Allegedly. Yes, that's going to be the name of this episode, allegedly. Um he did give the money back. And then they're saying I put a note that they're saying that the councilman Jerome Hayward tried to coerce Moses on the topic of how to even accept the money. He was saying that he guided Moses to say that the preferred approach to doing this would be to vote in favor of said company and then request the set amount once the vote gets passed. Because they're saying that Moses was like, well, I'm only going to proceed with this vote if you put the money in my hand, basically. And Jerome was now saying, well, we can't do that. That's illegal. In order to get around that, just go ahead and proceed to vote in favor of said company, and then just tell them, this is the amount that you want afterwards, basically. But
Well, clearly
I
that
do.
guy was not the right guy to be coaching people on how to do it because he got caught. So
Correct.
he did
Clearly, it was
not.
still illegal.
Right.
Mhm. All right. So that's my spill. That's what we know. So let's go ahead and let's digress. So let's
Are
process.
these people like the council members, they're not they're not serving right now. Like
So there's 3 council members. 2 of them have resigned, and the third one he has not resigned. However, Governor McMaster has placed an executive order to suspend his seat as of right now until the results come out. So he's not like showing up to anything
Ooh.
like that. So he hasn't technically resigned. The seat is just suspended until some type of resolution. Either he's not found guilty, he's found guilty, or replacement, whatever. So
and that could
as
take,
of right now,
I mean, forever.
A long
So as-
time.
Yeah.
so only
he just
2
gets to
have
sit in that seat.
So
That's
yeah,
lovely.
only 2 out of 3 have actually resigned, and that's why in our town right now there are people announcing and making their bid for the seat because it's actually open. But in District 1, where Mike Brown sits, it's only suspended, so no one, it's not open to the public yet. But great. Let's start with my first question that I want to ask the group. Knowing what all we know now, what is your initial reaction to the news about the resigned city council members? What is your reaction hearing and processing all of this?
So, like, my reaction, and this is very terrible and very cynical, like, it's upsetting, but I hate to say not surprised, and not that specifically North Charleston, but like just in general, there's a lot of people in power for the wrong reasons.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And so, like, that's my initial cynical reaction to it.
My initial thought was who snitched? Because, like, the feds are not paying attention to North Charleston on a day-to-day basis, right? They must have gotten tipped off. Someone must have blown the whistle. So I guess, like, I just have more questions than answers at this point. Like, I just want to, like, hear the arguments in court. I want to see the receipts and all of that, because I'm just like I don't I feel for the personal assistant, because I can only imagine being in like such a vulnerable position, and somebody with so much power over you is like, this is how you have to do it. Like, even if they knew that that was wrong, like, what could they even do about it? So that's really who I feel for the most, other than the taxpayers of North Charleston, who are like rightfully pissed off. But I think like, I just can't wait to see that play out in court. That's going to be really interesting.
Are you going to court? Are you going to go watch?
Going to go watch. No, I'm going to report everything. She doesn't have to watch. She's going to catch it from this show too.
Listen, I didn't even watch the Murdoch trial. I didn't know. No, I'm not about that life. So yeah, please give me the Reader's Digest version.
I know the clip notes, you know, the bullet points, you know. I will say that this, before it got released to the public, they're saying that they were being monitored since February of last year. So my reaction is, man, if they've been watching and observing in behind the scenes for a year, it's like, man, well, how long has this even been going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, they sat silent for a whole year just watching. So it's like, well, what was happening?
It takes a while to build a case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they said February 2024. Like, man, they were just sitting in silence, just watching and monitoring and recording and listening. My next question is, how do you think the public should be responding to elected officials who, you know, take advantage of their positions?
Well, first and foremost, yes. Anyone listening to this thinking that they are not qualified to run for their city council, please listen to this story and decide for yourself if you are more or less qualified than these people to run for office. So first and foremost, that. But second off, I might sound like a Freedom Caucuser when I say this, so please forgive me if that's the case. There has to be more transparency in government. And when I say transparency, I mean like legitimate transparency, not like this like catfish game where there's like boogeymen in closets that don't actually exist. Like, I mean, like, there are real problems that truly exist and people don't know about them. People don't know how to tune in when their city council's even meeting. It's the same time every month. Like, let me just tell you, put it in your calendar, mark it, but people don't know. And so the unfortunate thing is people only find out when there's bad information. They're not hearing any of the good stuff that happens. They're not, you know, like here on Hilton Head, people were all up in arms because now you got to pay to park if you're a Bluffton resident on Hilton Head and you want to go to the beach. And they were like, if I had known, I would have shown up at the Hilton Head Town Council and blah, blah. And I was like, no, like I remember reading about this, but like none of you, like, it didn't matter to you then, right? It's only when something bad happens that you like have a reaction. So 1, you're already qualified. 2, find a way to tune in and make this more of a regular part of your life, because that's the only way to have accessibility and transparency and accountability in the process.
Just run for something. But I also recognize that doesn't work for everybody. Like, you know, there are a lot of obstacles and barriers, but if you are able to run.
For me, I think that people should respond, I say, organically. I feel like if this is something that has bothered you, then feel free to say something. Like, if this is something that has bothered you, feel free to do something. And that goes back to what Kirsten said about just engaging and deciding if you want to run. And even if you don't want to run, it's also what Em said, just showing up to the meetings. Like you don't have to be the face of the change, but you can be a part of the change by, and that just like being involved, going to the meetings, being in the loop, so that when these things happen, our reaction isn't so shocked, because we're like, we were involved, we were engaged, we were in the know, we were in the loop. So I feel like people should organically respond and then go from there. If this bothered you hearing all this, then do something about it. If it did not bother you, you know what I'm saying,
That's
sit in
another
that as well.
conversation. Yeah.
That's another conversation. And
Yeah, we
how
might
we
need
are just
Jesus.
organically like reacting to it, I feel like that's good. The one thing that I know for me, I'll never laugh at someone's misfortune because I'm not in their shoes. I don't know what prompted them to take the bait, what prompted them to make those choices and those actions. But as for me, I'm a heavy stickler on karma. So I'm like hesitant to even like giggle at like Kiki, too much about this situation, because at the end of the day, it's unfortunate for all parties involved. It's unfortunate for the constituents. It's unfortunate for the council people. And then it's just, I feel like it's unfortunate for Black people. I feel as I'm looking at the faces, I know these individuals because last year Jerome Hayward, I was in his district, and then I recently moved, so now I'm in Mike Brown's district. So for me, I feel like it's personal because these are my representatives. You know what I'm saying? And then only that, they're all Black people. So it's like, man, come on, y'all. Like, we already have to go two steps so much just to keep up and be on an even like level playing field. So to hear and see this, it's like we keep saying representation matters, representation matters. Well, it's like, hello, like, well, what's going on and stuff. So for me, I do feel like it's personal because I see them at city council meetings. I'm in the streets while they're giving out turkeys for Thanksgiving. And then I get on my phone and then I hear like this terrible like message. So I do think it's very unfortunate for all parties involved. And I hope that this is like a learning lesson, not just for them, but it's a learning lesson for the constituents as well. That's why I keep saying, however you respond, hopefully it moves you to want to get more involved. Hopefully it moves you to get more educated about what's going on in your backyard. Because at the end of the day, we voted to put these people in place. And some of these people, they didn't even get a lot of votes to win as it is. Say city council, not a lot of people actually come out.
Yes. Yes,
So
that's
it's
what I
like
was going to
not a lot
say
of
too.
people.
Because like now that it's going to be a special election. As somebody who ran for town council in a special election, like it's all about the people who show up. And if you don't even know that you're
Mhm.
supposed to show up, or who you're supposed to be selecting from, or who stands for what, or who aligns with your values or whatever, like it's so hard because it's like on a good day, on a regularly scheduled election, it's hard to get people to show up. When people are
Mhm.
like annoyed at the process and they got to go on a random day for a special election to replace someone, like it's just, it's not a reason to sit out. If anything, it's more of a reason to show up, and you got to educate the people around you as well because they don't know either.
Mhm. Which leads me to my next question. What does this scandal tell us about accountability in local government? I do want to say that I do commend them as far as resigning. I feel like that is the right accountability because you've lost our trust. You know what I'm saying? If these allegedly things come out that it is actually true, I don't know how we're supposed to look at them to be in those positions for the remainder of the term. I do feel like they did make the right decision to resign if the actions were actually have some type of fact base, to them. Um, but how do you guys feel that the accountability in local government? And I do want to say one more thing. I also feel like, as much as this situation is very unfortunate, it's kind of like, what's the phrase, like don't throw a stone or something like that, because I just feel like look at
Mm.
Trump. We got a whole felon, you know what I'm saying, running the government. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
well,
And
I
not
mean,
facing any
hello,
charges.
yeah, he's like leading us, and then he's a felon, and then the stuff that he's been convicted with, is like wild and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, is there such thing as accountability? What does that say about accountability in local government? Does it even exist, or is it not? Does it not exist at all?
I think that's a tricky question because I think that there are definitely things that go on that we don't know about. But at the same point, seeing stories like this, hopefully it would encourage other local politicians to take accountability of what they're doing and maybe take a step back and be like, okay, what I'm doing is wrong. Like, I could get caught too. Like, let's hit the brakes on whatever wrong thing I'm doing. So, I don't know. It's difficult because the accountability is, I mean, going back to what Em said about voting, if you know that you have to face the voters for something you've done, then that makes more of an impact. But if you know that people aren't even going to show up and vote, like voter turnout's low and you're going to win anyway, then it's like, well, let me just do what I want because it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to get reelected.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said, Erica, about commending them for resigning, because that's not something that we see in politics today, whether that's at a federal level in Washington, D.C., or even at a state level. There's a state representative who is currently under a federal investigation, and he is still voting in the chamber. So I think that's a good first step. It's showing a good faith effort for your constituents, acknowledging that they deserved better. I think it's hard because on one hand, I want to say it's local politics. These are more like everyday people, right? So in a way, you would think that would make it less enticing for corruption and these types of allegations. But at the same time, they're everyday people who are making maybe $10,000 stipend to be on a city council, right? It's not like they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars like they are in DC.
Exactly.
But also in DC, you have like this inner working of backdoor deals and staffers and relationships with other people that make it easy for that to exist. So it's really hard for me to say that local government would be more or less corrupt. I think, unfortunately, like we hear about it when it happens and it affects us on a more personal level. Like you were saying, these are people that from being in the community, whereas like I've never seen my congressperson in face to face once. So there's that part to it. And then there's also the, like, I'm going to put this in air quotes, nonpartisan nature of a city council or a town council that makes it easier for folks to assume good faith because you don't have a political party assigned to your name. And that's not to, most people fall in the middle. But when you have a letter next to your name, either a D or an R, people make assumptions about who you are, what values you hold, how you conduct yourself, right? And it's up to you to either prove them correct or prove them incorrect. When you have this quote unquote nonpartisan position, school board, municipal, county level, whatever it may be, you kind of get that benefit of the doubt right away that you don't get when there's a political party associated with you. So I think for me, that's kind of like the biggest shame of all of this. I mean, there's a lot of things, but like, it's like you had the opportunity to really like carve your own path and like leave your own legacy. And now this is going to be these people's legacies, regardless of if they're found guilty or not. Like this is going to be what's said about them for the rest of forever.
Right.
So
it's
these
going to
people aren't
be what it's talked about.
identified. These people aren't identified as Democrat or Republican.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
Oh, they're Democrats.
Oh. Your city council is partisan?
Oh! I thought you're asking what are the individuals like? What? So yes, it's not partisan. I thought
like,
you're saying.
Yeah. No, like when they ran for their seat, there was no
Oh yes,
affiliation.
right.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
see. In like Greenville City Council, they do have party affiliation.
That's so interesting. I mean,
So that's why I
mine
was like
was
confused. I'm like, wait, these people
yeah. No,
aren't
my seat was nonpartisan. They ran down
yeah.
all of these things about me
Well, yeah.
because they know
Mm,
that I'm a Democrat. But that was like that to me is like a blessing of running for a nonpartisan position, right? Like I don't have to
mm-hmm,
like when you're running for town council, you don't have to talk about abortion. But yet, like they
mm-hmm.
still made that attack against me. So that was just the point I was trying to make.
I think you
That's
also brought up
interesting.
a valid point that what people neglect to realize is that the city council, they do not make a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, in order to do city council, it's not going to be your full time job. Like you have to have the full time job at the city council. You know, is the other job added to the full time job? But these are not like if you are in these positions, it's because you really do just want to be a servant to your community. Like you're really trying to be it's still like some type of leadership or some type of change or some type of capacity, but it's definitely no one goes into the role for the financial side of it. You may be able to find some connections and network, and that's how you get financial like gain and opportunities, but the position itself does not pay enough to where you could just solely do it. And I also feel like that kind of like discourages people to run or even consider it because you're not getting that much money from it, say, and then what you have to commit to the job, but you're not getting paid, enough for that job. It could definitely steer people, the other way. But my last question I do want to ask you guys is how can such incidents impact voter confidence in future elections? How does this partake into the voter confidence when it comes to elections? I'm curious to see when it when this next race. So like I said, a lot of people are already starting to announce their bid for these seats, but I'm curious to see how many people are even going to come out now after hearing the news and like just hearing how it can again organically make some people feel. Are they going to want to continue to go outside their door and be a part of the voting process now? But what do you guys
I don't
think?
want
How does
to.
this impact?
I don't want to speak out of turn, so please tell me if I'm out of line with what I'm about to say. But North Charleston is a very Black community, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's already a lot of distrust from
Mm-hmm.
Black community members in their government for one reason or another. And that's not for me to judge or to say what's what about. But you started saying this earlier. It's unfortunate that now these are Black leaders feeding into
Yeah.
this preconceived notion about corruption in government, right? And I think it's going to keep a lot of people home. And I think furthering that point is that if two people have resigned, so you can start that special election process, and one person hasn't resigned yet, that's going to be a different special election, right? Because it has to be a certain amount of time between resignation and special election. So it's going to be hard enough to get people to come out that first time in those two districts. Maybe they're pissed off enough and they're paying attention to the story, so they show up. But that third person, that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
really, really hard to get people to show up
Mm-hmm.
a completely random time for that one city council seat.
Yeah. Um, I feel like if he is not resigning, then he definitely feels strongly that he is innocent, and everyone does have their, due diligence to be proven guilty, innocent until proven guilty. So I wish him, I wish him um, luck and whatever is going on with his situation and all of that whatever stuff, but I definitely feel like it's perception is real, you know what I'm saying, and I feel like it's so hard to get voters involved and then to see, like, I don't want to say the empire fall, but like to see like our council leaders being even in the headlines of these narratives is just very disheartening, and it does not do the Black community justice, trying to now get them involved and trying to motivate them on why they should vote, why they should get involved. And it's like that broken record where we're like, well, this is why I don't get involved. This is why I choose to stay home, because look at what's happening with my vote and stuff. So
Right.
I just, and then only that, like I said earlier, not a lot of people get involved in local elections. So it's like, it's just, I hope that people feel the need to still want to get involved, because at the end of the day, these things that are going on in our city are still affecting us, and we just need the right people, whoever it is, the servants, to come forward and decide to, still make a difference. And I just feel like a lot of us feel like a balloon that has air slowly coming out of it. It's just very hard to get involved into politics in 2025. And then it just brings me back to also saying, like, when people come up to me, people that are running, and they share that they're a Democrat because I'm a Democrat, I still look at them and I'm like, okay, and like, just because you're a Democrat does not mean that you're going to get my vote by default. That's not how my vote works. So my vote works because based on, well, what are you saying in spaces that I'm not in? What are you saying to, protect my community and protect my rights? And what are your morals and values? It's like, you can't just tell me. I need you to show me how you're using those, And it's like, just because we are both Democrats, that just means that we may have commonalities in our voting process, but that doesn't mean that you've done something to earn the vote. You know what I'm saying? And then so I just feel like we got to get past about, like, are you a Democrat? Cool, you're just going to get my vote. It's like, no, we really have to put, like, see what everyone's merit, see what their value is, see what they're doing, like I said again, in spaces that we're not in. And that's what I feel like is going to take. And hopefully, people decide to come out and people decide to get involved, and hopefully this does not deter them.
Not for nothing. And then, Kirsten, I want to hear your thoughts, but isn't North Charleston also where Representative Marvin Pendarvis just had to resign his seat from?
That was not North Charleston. Well, that was out west. What's that place called? I was about to say West Ashley, somewhere over there. But yes, he did recently resign as well. It's not.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, it's still like all of this is like cumulatively. All of this is not a great optic, because again, another strong Black leader, right, had to resign, step down. There had to be another special election, right? Courtney's still not technically in that seat because that was just a primary. Now we have to do a general. There's no representation for those people. So like even more so, people are like, well, what's the point? Like, what are we doing here? So just throwing that in there too.
Yeah. I don't know. And then it's like you want people to get involved, but it's just like, it's very hard to get Black people specifically involved. And now I feel like it's going to be even harder to try to motivate them to want to get involved, because it's like, you want to be like, we have great options, we have this and that, and then it's like, I don't know. Again, it's like a balloon with air coming out. But I feel like the last thing that we need to do is still not get involved. I feel like I'm a stickler on that vote. And when you don't vote, you are voting. You know what I'm saying? When you're not getting involved, then that's like part of the problem right there. So I hopefully whoever is listening, this does not deter you away from going to get involved, because at the end of the day, your vote is your power, your vote is your voice, your vote carries weight, your vote has responsibilities, your vote makes changes, your vote turns the page, it opens doors, it carries weight. So I hope everyone still, if you're listening, I encourage you to still make sure that you use your most beneficial power before, instead of just giving it away for free. Because like I said, some of these people are not even doing anything to even earn the vote. So let's not just hand it over easy. That's my soapbox. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up with the last segment called Two Truths and a Lie. The point about this segment, again, if for any first new listeners, we're going to share two truths and one lie, and then I'm going to ask my co-host to try to figure out which one is the lie. And I did 3 different rounds of this myself, because you guys are already savvy on politics and things like that. So I kept trying to like, no, they're going to pick that one. I got figured out and stuff. So hopefully I stumped you. It's a lot of pressure on these two truths and a lie. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of pressure over here.
It is. We should also keep a score, because last episode, Kirsten got mine and you didn't. So I think we should keep a tally.
Literally about to say that I'm the reigning champion.
You are. You're undefeated.
Only one time. But
okay.
But I still take it.
Yeah.
Still take it.
I'm going to write it down. I'm going to make a score sheet right here.
I'm super competitive, so I'm here for it.
All right. So let's get All right, so these are my questions. I got to make sure I'm not giving out the answers. So I got to make sure I'm seeing where I'm at so I'm not telling the answers. Okay. All right. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So the first question, city council members, because since we're talking about city council, we're going to share some, our true truths and a lie will be about city council. So city council members can accept donations from corporations, but they are limited to a maximum of $5,000 per election cycle. So they can accept donations, but there's a cap, which is 5,000. Okay. 2, a city council member's spouse is prohibited from accepting any form of financial contribution from any businesses that council that if their spouse is sitting on that seat, the spouse cannot be involved. They cannot accept any type of monetary contributions from anybody. Okay, and then 3. City council members can vote on zoning issues that directly benefit properties they may own as long as they declare a conflict of interest. Because as you heard earlier, some of these were dealing with zoning topics. So with that being said, city council members, they can vote on zoning issues that directly benefit properties they own as long as they declare that there is a conflict of interest. So 1, 2, 3. Go. Did I stomp you?
I feel like from the look on M's face, she knows the answer.
It's funny that you say that because I thought I knew, and now I think I'm like getting in my own head about it. So I want to hear you work through it first.
Okay, so like my initial thought on which one is the lie is the one about spouses. Because in my head, I'm like, how are you going to dictate what the spouse is going to do? Because, like, they're not elected, but also at the same time, like, that rule makes sense. Like, so, like, my first thought would be that one, but then also, like, the first one, like, the $5,000 seems like a high amount for a city council race. I feel like 3 is probably true. Because I like as long as you declare that you have a conflict of interest, stupid. But so I'm kind of I don't know. I'm between 1 and 2 as being the lies. Where are you at?
So when you first started talking, I was like, it's definitely number 1. I'm going to take off my glasses because I mean, I've worked on campaigns. I know that unless you're running for a statewide office, it's $1,000 max per individual, or like PAC money, or so I would assume that it's the same for a business. I can't imagine that they're allowed to give 5,000 when each individual is only allowed to give 1,000. So that was my initial thought. But then I was thinking the same thing that you were thinking about number 2, Kirsten, like how are they going to track that? Like nobody said anything to me about that when I was running for town council. Like my husband couldn't accept, I mean, again, sure. Yeah, makes sense. Like I'm behind that, but like I've never heard that. And then the third one, I know that people have abstained from voting on conflict of interest things before, but I don't know if that's because they had to, or if they were just like, it would be wrong of me to vote on this. Like, I don't know if that was required of them. But I felt really strongly that $5,000 was just not the right answer. So I'm going with number 1.
Okay.
And
because I want to broke that down.
Because I want to be different, I'm going to go with number 2. Because I'm really 50-50. But I kind of do feel strongly about 1, just because, like Em said, that number is high. I'm still going to say number 2, just because I'm like, we can't have the same answer. Which is awful, because, like, then we both be right. But anyway, I'm going with number 2.
All right. And the answer is the reigning champ has done it again. Good job, champ.
Nice. Good job, Kirsten.
Good job, Kirsten. Yes. So just to clarify for our listeners, you are allowed to accept up to $5,000 for the campaign. Many jurisdictions,
with
it
the
could vary,
staffing.
but you can, it is a lot. So the more you know, okay, you know what I'm saying? So yes, you can accept up to $5,000. And then with the statement that it is a lie, a city council member can, their wife or their spouse can receive money, whatever. But if there is a conflict of interest, and obviously acknowledge it. Don't just like turn the other cheek and then that stirs the pot even more. But the spouse has nothing to do with the city council's members' decision and choices, so they absolutely can take whatever comes their way. But again, if there is a conflict of interest, I would encourage anyone who's maybe decided running and married, make sure you acknowledge that. And then I think that was it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. But good job, Chill. Okay, girl, I see you, big dog. You know.
All right, we're gonna have to get
But I
have
think
to get like a trophy.
I know, right. God,
I
at
will
least now
gladly
you're just
accept.
showing out. Right, now
I
you're
love
showing out. You're just showing out.
I love an
All
award,
right.
which I need to figure out where my Young Dems award is
I was
now
about
that
to
I'm
say, I
thinking
think I'm
about it.
still missing one of those, but we can do that another day.
Yeah, because it wasn't technically I didn't win, but I was the chair, so I feel like I deserve it. And now I want that award back wherever it is.
Yeah, I know. There's one that has my name on it somewhere out in the world, but I just never got. I have one.
I
I think
feel
it's
like
over
you like
here.
won
But
twice.
Was
I
I
did. I've won
supposed to
back to back
order that?
years.
No,
Nope.
the year I was
You got
supposed to order it, you
you
got
got me
it.
mine.
That's
Correct.
right.
You know what?
Good.
Anyways,
Making
we're
sure I'm
gonna
on
close
top of
this
it.
because I didn't win any
That's a
awards.
whole
So we're
other
just gonna
episode.
close this out.
Well, I didn't win
Um,
personally, so I
I know,
mean,
right? Y'all are just showing out. Okay, look. Right. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and close this out. I want to thank you guys for your insightful thoughts. I'm just gonna chuckle at that inside joke. Your insightful thoughts during this episode. Again, I want to encourage all listeners to reach out with feedback and questions. We're so thankful that you guys even took time out your day to tap in, to tune in. Make sure you spread the message. Keep encouraging everyone. Keep getting them involved. If they have any questions, definitely have them reach out to us. We can definitely help them find their village, because that's, as you heard, that's what all got us started and help navigate us on this political journey. But thank you again for joining this episode of Politics Speaking. We hope today's discussion has not only enlightened but also inspired you to stay informed and get engaged in local politics. Remember to tune in next time so that you guys can continue hearing all of our thoughts as we share them and unpack the ins and outs of political systems that affect our lives. Until next time, stay curious and keep speaking politically. Thank you, ladies. Peace out.
bye. This is Kirsten Pruitt. Please subscribe to the show wherever you find podcasts and consider leaving us a rating. You can find links to our social media and YouTube page in the show notes. Thanks again for listening.
The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media, LLC, and is copyright 2025, all rights reserved.